Hello everyone, it's Mike Levin. Friday, January 26th at exactly 7 p.m. And I am heading over to pick up my daughter for the weekend. And obviously I am driving in my car as part of my new quasi-suburban life here in Staten Island. And when last we talked, I was probably still living in Inwood, New York City. The tippy top of Manhattan, just this side really of the Bronx, over the Broadway Bridge. And not all the bridges and, tunnels in and out of Manhattan are scary and, infamous like the Lincoln Tunnel. Some of them are like just these little nothing things between boroughs that you never even think of. The 207 Street Bridge was one. I'll probably still continue to use as I visit our wonderful old neighborhood of Inwood. This is my first time in 10 years that I'm living anywhere other than the borough of Manhattan in New York City. So I guess I kind of have it in my mind now where I would like to live probably at some time in my life in all of the boroughs of New York City. And, 2 down, 3 to go. And it's going to be fun. I think I'm, a formally transplanted Philadelphian now in New York, just as the Eagles get to the Super Bowl, right? So, the nature of my YouTube videos, my vlogging, if you will, has dramatically changed because the commute from that neighborhood at the tippy top of Manhattan down to lower Midtown, where I work, is essentially an hour straight shot down and then a 20-minute walk. In the morning, I would always take the A, which was one of the subway train lines in New York City, and Inwood is the end of the line on the A, so I always got a seat in the morning, and that was very nice, and that was enough reason to choose an express an express train that doesn't stop at 28th Street, which is where I work, and only stops at 34th Street, which is Penn Station. So I had the choice of doing some connections. I could do a connection at Columbus Circle and take the R and be a few blocks closer, but then you'd have a connection which can, be add 10 minutes to your commute if you don't hit the trains just right. So, and then there's also that hurry up and wait, that rushing to the next connection thing, which I never really liked. So I just did the 20-minute walk, which was the source of the YouTube videos. And I'm living in Staten Island, right near the ferry. 2 train stops from the ferry. And so, I am very much in that hurry up and wait. The sprint. The Staten Island suburban cattle chutes. These crowds waiting for the ferry in the morning can be enormous. It feels like being at a sporting or music event. And, that's just life. The ferry ride itself is absolutely wonderful. And with this different rhythm of the day, very different rhythm of the day, because this is the way I start my day when my peak energy is highest, and this is the way I end my day when my winding down, creative juices are firing, like right now. So it's one of the horrible, ironies of productivity in America and the world, really, that the 2 sweet spots of energy, after you wake up and before you go to sleep, are wasted on travel, on the commute. Now, I know there was a day where travel actually took some work and you needed that energy to not be attacked on the road. But now that things are kind of easy, it seems an awful waste. And of course, companies like Google are trying to tackle that problem in the most complex way possible, make cars self-driving so you can utilize that time. All right. Well, telecommuting, and Google's helping with that too. Telecommuting is also a very viable choice for getting rid of that awful shame of the commute that's in so many people's lives, that study after study shows, like, if not the number one, then certainly in the short list of things that detract from happiness in life. So you make the best of it, and when you're living in New York City and your commute consists of public transportation mostly, there's a lot of ways to make the best of it, because it's like you're already living the life of auto-navigating vehicles. They're called trains and cabs. So, the chopped up time of the commute lends itself to Twitter. Or it lends itself to typing out. It lends itself to written format as opposed to video. And I'm going to get my video in where I can. It's probably going to be a lot of car stuff like this. I'll have to decide whether I really want to do that or not. But it seems to be okay. This is exactly the kind of multitasking that humans were born to do. Higher order stuff is left to our thinking brain. It utilizes the most valuable resources, our thinking brain. That's why static skills, things that go into rote memory, where muscle memory, can kick in, and automatic systems and automation. Those types of things you can do with one other thing that doesn't occupy that same sensory I/O. Excuse me, just getting over a cold. So, having to think, having to utilize the same I/O channels can cause gridlock. Having to think where you don't normally think, where things are automatic, can cause, you to, I guess, switch from what appears very much to be multitasking in this way that we're also familiar with the concept of multitasking now, which is amazing. Back in the days of the Amiga, people wrote it off as something why would you want to multitask? Why would you want to? So, it's not that the whole world felt that way. It's that the small group of people who conformed themselves to the tools said stuff like that. People who had the capacity to shape themselves around the tools they have that capacity. They could justify it to any degree. Some might say that us using the keyboard now is a carryover from those days, because when you think about it, with voice recognition, the need to type is almost gone, unfortunately, but we can't let it go the way of handwriting. Handwriting, you see it later. It seemed like one of the most pointless things when I learned how to do it. And when I really became a handwriter, keeping journals since 1988, written journals, I switched over to digital at some point along the way. But in keeping the journal, I switched from handwriting to, from cursive to handwriting. I don't even know what the terms are. I switched from cursive to letter blocks. My writing speed was not, diminished. I was writing just as fast. Ooh, lifting up a pencil a little bit. I think it's that whole swooshy, swooshy, swooshy thing. And, it's very Victorian and very, has this hotsy-totsy feel to it. It can be very beautiful. You look at the U.S. Constitution and other things that were done in cursive, and you're like, it can be well executed, but not by me. So not everything is for everyone. And with, I had this light on all that time. Well, I guess that's good for the video. I'll keep it consistent. So, 8 billion or so people in this world, just as many ways to live a life, and that's subdivided in all kinds of small choices that are in, context. So billions of lives with zillions of different contextual settings, which, what's right in one setting might be wrong in another. And that seems to be at the heart of really the divide in the United States right now. Those who feel that there is one most true moral compass, set of ethics and virtues, and anyone not abiding by them is not with the program of the United States of America. And I don't, necessarily agree with that. However, I do feel very strongly about, treating human beings with kindness and respect and giving them a second chance and maybe even a third chance. And if you want to call that a welfare state, fine. But, I would be in favor of something like a 3-strike system where even after the 3rd strike, there are a variety of programs you can join to be put to work to put in a day's pay for, to put in a day's work for a day's pay. And I realize that having children in the mix changes that a lot, but there has to be creative solutions. We are human beings. We're a tempered, self-determined species. Now, we were tempered, but it's easy to go soft. You go soft in a generation. Everyone does. It's a truism. The generation who knows what it took to get there is gonna die, and the generation who inherits the world from them has almost no clue why things are the way they are. Well, I hope to address that a bit. That's going to be part of my online identity here. I'm just old school enough to be pre-digital. Atari 2600. I remember a life without it. I remember a life where there was only one color TV in the house. There were a few TVs, but all but the living room one was black and white. So that's me. Built crystal radios. I know every antenna is also a potential transmitter. Binary is a concession to how complicated the world is to simplify it. And things can be automated when you simplify and then have force on one side and a path for something to go on the other. That's a whole variety of things. Calculating machines, amplifiers, and all that. I'll cover that, and then I'll take it right up through learning Python. Learning Python for the purpose of SEO, search engine optimization, using primarily the Pipulate project on my GitHub, but also maybe a little bit Linux to get you familiar with Unix-like environments, to cast away the fear. And I am here, and so that's where I wrap up and say thanks for joining me. Hopefully I'll be restarting my YouTube series, and this is the first of many to come where I get back into all that great career professional stuff where it's really getting exciting because I have got a feel for pandas. Thanks for joining me. Hope to talk to you soon, and don't forget to subscribe.